of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. May the peace and blessings of God be upon His messengers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I greet you with the Muslim greeting of peace, which means may the peace and blessings of God be upon you. My name is Nida Chaudhry, and I'll be your moderator tonight, and we'll be having Yusuf come up to share some words of the Quran, recite some words of the Quran. Yusuf.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. الله العظيم. This is the second surah of the Holy Quran. The read ayahs 1 through 5. First ayah, Alif Lam Mim. This is the book about which there is no doubt, a guidance for those conscious of Allah, who believe in the unseen, establish prayer, and spend out of what we have provided for them, and who believe in what has been revealed to you, O Muhammad, and what has been before you, and of the hereafter they are certain in faith. Those are upon right guidance from their Lord, and it is those who are the successful.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. As you may all know, this is an event that is part of a week-long series dedicated to raising awareness about Islam. We hope to see you come out tomorrow as well. We have Napoleon, formerly of Tupac's Outlaws, coming out to speak at 12 campuses across the country. So without further ado, Amir Abdel Malik.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum. Hi. I'll start, inshallah, when I was 10 years old. I'm starting at 10. Oh. I'm a child of the 60s. When Dr. King was killed, I was 10 years old. And so, having been raised up in a type of environment where you saw Muhammad Ali and the Black Panthers and Dr. King and so on and so forth, it was a period that really affected you. And so we wanted to grow up and become militants, literally. We wanted to grow up to be Black Panthers, our generation. And that's kind of like what was happening at that time. It's like it wasn't entertainers who were the heroes. It wasn't, there was activists who were the heroes. It's like if you were going to be cool, you had to be in the movement. And if you wasn't in the movement, you wasn't cool. That's what the cool people did. They were activists. And so that was the atmosphere that we grew up in. And I guess the child psychologist will tell you that at 10 years old, that is an imprinting stage in children. And so having grown up in that environment, seeing my mother active, my father active, and talking around the table about the movement. Literally, we had a tradition in our family where we would, the younger ones would sit around and listen to the older ones talk about the movement. And we were too young to chime in, but we would just listen. And so our fathers and our uncles and our aunties and our mothers would be engaged in these discussions, these conversations, and sometimes they would agree with each other, and sometimes they would disagree. And so, but as the young ones, we just had to sit back and just listen to their discussion. And And so that was like the atmosphere. I remember asking my mother to buy me a Bible. They had a children's Bible out at the time. It was big, and it was thick, and it was colorful. Lots of pictures. And I asked her to buy me a Bible. And so I was 10, and so she bought me a Bible. And that was my first experience with the prophets, because it went through the Old Testament to the New Testament. And so I remember developing a liking for the prophets and their personalities, and of course developed a closeness to the one God. So that's 10 years old. So in my life at that time, there was spirituality and there was activism at 10 years old. There was spirituality and there was activism. And so if we flash forward to high school, I think the most, and this was back east in Philadelphia. You know, back east, the East Coast is a whole other world. You know what I'm saying? Philly, New York, and that type of thing. It's a whole other world. So, so having come up in the 60s on the East Coast and coming up in an environment that stressed activism, and the spirituality was basically my own. My father was spiritual, but he kept it on the DL. So the spirituality was mostly of my own, but the activism was just something that was just characterized our household. Then coming out to California, when I was 16 years old, I had 2 more years of high school to do, and so up in the Bay Area. And so the thing that just impacted me the most in high school was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. That after I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, my only conclusion was, okay, I want to be what he is. And the thing that stood out for me the most was Islam. And so I tried to practice Islam using the Encyclopedia Britannica. Because when Malcolm was approached by the FBI agent, and Malcolm said to him, he said, did you, like something to the effect of, did you get the memo? I don't follow Elijah Muhammad anymore. I follow Muhammad ibn Abdullah of Arabia. I specifically remember when I read that, saying to myself, who's Muhammad ibn Abdullah of Arabia? Who's that? So it was Malcolm who introduced me to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I didn't know about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I never heard of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And so I'm thinking to myself, if Malcolm's following him, and Malcolm is cold-blooded, you know what I'm saying? Malcolm is the man. So if Malcolm's following him, who's he? And so I went to the Encyclopedia Britannica to look up Islam. And so, you know, they talk about the 5 pillars and so on and so forth. And they talk about the Prophet Muhammad, so on and so forth. And then, peace be upon him. And then it had a Muslim praying. He's in sajda, the forehead to the ground. And so it didn't show the other movements. I mean, it's the Encyclopedia Britannica. So I went home and I tried to, that's how I prayed. I put my forehead on the ground, right? And I told my mother, so I'm not eating pork anymore. Ma, I ain't eating pork no more. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, that type of thing. But I didn't know about Shahada. I didn't know about all that kind of stuff. But in my mind, I'm practicing Islam. And so that's how you pray. You know, that's how you pray. And if ever I needed more information, I went to the Encyclopedia Britannica. And just, you know, that type of thing, right? And so that was huge for me, because Malcolm just had such a serious impact on me that it was just, and I can't overstate that enough in terms of his impact. And so, flash forward to junior college, I lost it. I had nothing to really feed it, right? So by the time I got to junior college, it was gone. My attachment to Islam was gone. My spiritual quest was gone. And then, of course, when you come to Western schools and universities and colleges, it's a secular thing. And so you start thinking that you all that, because you're intelligent and you're intellectual. So you all that. And so you don't need religion, you know. And so I got to the point to where I was an agnostic. I wasn't sure if God existed or not, right? So me and my uncle, we started getting all these discussions, right? And so I said to him one day, that's when I was JC at the junior college, I said, I'm not sure if God existed or not. And so my uncle says to me, well, how do you explain nature? How do you explain a baby?